This was awesome. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Roundup. This is South Florida's only show dedicated to millennials, created by a millennial, and this ain't your grandmama news show, okay? We are gonna give you everything that's buzzing in South Florida and beyond. So, let's not wait, let's get right into it. So, the first story up on The Roundup is coming to us from out of Opalocka. Now, I got tagged under a post on Instagram by my good friend Isaiah, aka Zabo from the Black House. And it's on the page, The Real Bushy Bee. He's a music artist out of South Florida, but he posted a video, a horrifying video of water all throughout the Back Blues. The formal name is Glorietta Gardens, and it's in Opalocka. And you can see water, at least a foot of water at the feet of these two women. They're sitting in front of their home. And he goes into the apartment. You see water in the bedroom. You see water in the living room, all throughout these people' goddamn house. That's crazy. And I've heard about this for years, that the Back Blues, they have a flooding problem. Opalocka in general has a flooding problem. And Mayor Matthew Pygott, he's been addressing that since he's been in office, doing what he can to fix the infrastructure. But what he said to me in a story that we did for High Low News is that the issue with the Back Blues is that it's privately owned. So the city has done what they can to enforce their code. They've dropped fines, but it's still not enough seemingly to get the owners to do what they need to fix the infrastructure over there. Always you see a 2 foot of flooding of water in their parking lots, in the people's homes. This is crazy. And the crazy thing is this, in our research, we saw an article from the Miami Times from 2 years ago where the residents are complaining about the same thing. And the residents there have been complaining about this for more than 30 years. Owners of Glorietta Gardens, aka Back Blues, you are on notice. This is unacceptable. And from what I heard is the best thing that residents can do and concerned citizens can do is to reach out to the HUD department. The property is connected to the HUD department, and so they're in charge of some of the funding over there. So if you want to see some change, putting in complaints to that department will work. Also, this falls under Senator Marco Rubio's jurisdiction. So calls to his office will help as well. The people over there need help. I just don't like that because there are people, maybe they have a certain income. Opalocka is a black city. Whatever the connotation is, they're being forgotten. And this is not acceptable. And I'm hoping that the community sees this story and they act and that some change happens over there in the Back Blues. For our next story, we head over to Liberty City. The Circle of Brotherhood held a press conference today to address the devastating case, just sad case of George Floyd, his life being taken by that police in Minneapolis, and also to address how our city, how our county would handle a situation like that. The press conference, we saw speakers from all over the county. Melba Pearson, who's running for Miami-Dade County State Attorney. We saw Mayor Carlos Jimenez speak, and the late Trayvon Martin, his mother Sabrina Fulton was one of Sabrina Fulton was one of the speakers there. And it was really good to see that they wanted to address these concerns, give the community a platform to voice their feelings about what happened with Mr. Floyd, but also to let us know what the city is already doing to implement police, community relations. Body cams were addressed by Carlos Jimenez, letting us know that that's something that they implemented. And also people reflected to the time when Miami itself was on fire from rioting. Everyone remembers the McDuffie riots, where Arthur McDuffie his life was senselessly taken from police officers, and the non-guilty verdict lit and enticed and angered the community. and the city went up in flames. Liberty City went up in flames. There was rioting happening, looting happening. I remember my mom telling me this story so many times. Her and my aunt and my grandma, they would tell us about the time they lived through it. They told me that the National Guard was walking through the streets. It was police presence, heavy police presence everywhere. People were just fighting. They're doing so many crazy, destructive things. And the race relations was crazy. Like my mom and my grandma told me, you know, a funny story. My grandma was in the store and she said a white woman looked at her crazy and she was like, bitch, what you looking at? And I can't remember, frankly, if my grandma said she was gonna slap the lady or she did slap her, whatever happened. But that's just to show you how tense the time was with race relations here in South Florida. And that's something that we don't want to go back to. I remember even some of the speakers saying that they were police then during that time, and they're like, we want to ensure that nothing like that happens. We wanted to improve the community, the relations with the Black community and the police, and that certain measures have been put in place since then to make sure something like what happened with Mr. Floyd doesn't happen here again. So it was really cool to see that. Shout out to Brother Lau Muhammad, the executive director of the Circle of Brotherhood. He was the MC for that. The Circle of Brotherhood, if you don't know, is a community-based organization with Black men who have took it upon themselves to police and patrol and improve their community. It is founded and headed by Brother Leroy Jones over there, and they have a school, a big, nice facility in Liberty City where they have so many different programs going on. And so you guys should check them out on social media and support them. But it was really cool that they took it upon themselves to say, hey, this happened in this city. We are hurting, we are connected with those people, but we want our community to know this is what we're gonna do if something like this happened, or this is what we're gonna do to prevent that. Our next story is about education. Floating around social media has been so much talk about education and what's gonna happen with public schools in Dade and in Broward when the school year comes back in the fall. So a few people that I saw talking about this was Vice Chair Dr. Steve Gallen from Miami-Dade County and Vice Chair from Broward County, Dr. Rosalind Osgood, UTD President, that's United Teachers of Dade. They had a Facebook Live featuring Dr. Gallen, and then State Rep Shevrin Jones had a talk with Dr. Osgood and Dr. Gallen about education. And some of the main takeaways that came from that is that school is going to look drastically different, something that we haven't seen before in our time. So from the conversation, you heard them saying that school may be in shifts. So you may have kids coming in the morning, you're gonna have kids come in the afternoon just to make sure that they're socially distant. Also, something that came up from the conversation is using different parts of the school to make sure that the kids are spread out. So using the auditorium, which may not be used during the school day, using the cafetorium. I remember I had that when I went to Myrtle Grove Elementary in Miami Gardens. Shout out to you, Eagles. Cafeteria and auditorium, that's fused in one. You may have classes in there just to keep people spread out for a long period of time so they're not, crowded. We have to stay socially distant because we don't have a vaccine for COVID yet. Also, something else that came up is that parents will have the option to virtually have their kids at home still to do at-home learning. So there are so many things that are buzzing around. We have an interview with Dr. Gallen that's going to be coming out where we're going to get into more detail about that, what school is going to look like, what sports is going to look like, high school sports. And so you guys want to stay tuned to that and definitely be plugged in, all you parents out there, to know what's going to happen with your students in the school year and how it's going to look for them. It's going to be new. And what something else that I really, really love, mental health. The students' mental health, the teachers' mental health, the parents' mental health, that all was discussed during these conversations. And what I learned is that those resources have never stopped. Parents and students and teachers have always had a hotline and resources, counselors to call on if this was getting too much. It's a pandemic. People, are having anxiety, depression. Those numbers are through the roof just nationally, all across the board, across industries. So to know that the school systems here in Dade and Broward County had resources for parents, teachers, and students, if they needed those things, that was really good to know. And from what I learned is that those resources are going to continue on throughout this and throughout the school year, whether it's a pandemic or not. So you guys keep your eye tuned on what's going on with Dade County schools, and we'll also keep giving you updates on what that looks like. So many of you are parents, so we want to make sure that you're informed. Our next story is about our essential workers at the airport. State Rep Shevrin Jones is donating 1,000 personal protection equipment items to our airport workers. He's teaming up with two companies, two organizations to do that. Indelible Solutions and Mary Kids Inc. are those two organizations. And unfortunately, he has to do this because Yulin America, the company that's contracted to hire airport workers who clean up our airplanes, they haven't been doing the best job of keeping their essential workers protected. And so Shevrin decided to team up with these two organizations to provide 1,000 PPE items to make sure those people are protected. I want to read this statement because Shevrin Jones said this in such a great way, and I want you guys to hear what he had to say. He released this statement saying, Yulin America should do their part to provide a safe working environment for workers. Airports are one of the main hubs of the spread of this pandemic, and forcing workers to continue operating under these unsafe conditions is wrong. He went on to say, this mass donation is not to absolve Yulin America of their responsibility to their employees, but to make sure they step up. We must keep our community members safe. I'm proud to have stood with airport workers in this ongoing fight for higher wages, and it is a shame our fight must continue in this way. Now, Shevrin Jones held this press conference this past Thursday at the Miami International Airport at Terminal D. And just to let you guys know, Yulin America is a Spain-based company that has been contracted by American Airlines and Delta Airlines to clean their planes. So you guys are on notice, Yulin America. You got to take care of our essential workers. They deserve better than this. And big ups to Indelible Solutions and Mary Kids Inc. and State Rep Shevrin Jones for making sure that those 1,000 PPE items will be given to those essential workers. On to some national news. Big ups to the Black News Channel. Hey, y'all, I see you doing big things. Y'all, you can watch the Black News Channel for free for the rest of the year if you're an Xfinity X1 customer or a Flex customer. Now, all you got to do is say Black News Channel in the remote. It's going to pop right up. And if you could watch CNN, you could watch MSNBC, you could definitely watch the Black News Channel. They are the nation's only and the first 24-hour news channel. All Black focus, all for us, by us. So I definitely want to give them a huge shout out and make sure that you guys know that you can watch them. Just say it into your remote and it's going to pop right up. So our next national news story, it's the story that you guys have been seeing buzzing everywhere. Police officer Derek Chauvin, 44 years old, Minneapolis police, has been arrested for murder in the death of George Floyd. Now, he lost his job, and we all were wondering, when is this man going to be arrested for murder? And we're so happy that he's been charged with that, and that this family, George Floyd's family, has some level of justice served. We're going to keep watching this to see how the case goes, what happens in the outcome. And it's just sad to say that as a Black person, a lot of times we don't get the justice that we deserve in these type of cases. But what I'm hoping that this umpteenth case of a police officer killing a Black man, a Black person, that it causes some type of change in the police departments, in our justice system, with our prosecutors, with our judges. This shit gotta fucking change, y'all. Like, it's not fair, it's not right for 400 years. Like, when is it gonna change? And unfortunately, I hate to say it, if it stays like this, it's gonna be Ferguson. It's gonna be Minneapolis, it's on fire. Hell, Miami in the 80s, Detroit in the 60s. Like, it's gonna be that because people are fed up. And what can you say at that point? I can't tell people to keep choosing peace when the system doesn't even try to treat them as human beings, doesn't even try to give them a fair chance. We gotta see something different. Now, what I will say, which is kind of a silver lining in this, something I didn't see, almost 10 years ago when Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown, when their lives were taken, is that you see police departments saying, we don't condone this. We would hold people accountable if they did this in our department. We don't stand for this bullshit. We are seeing them speak out against these things. And it's about time. We need a system also in place for our police departments where if a police officer sees something, that they have the protection to tell on someone who's not doing right. These good cops should not feel like they are by themselves. They need the support. We need to make sure that we have systems, police institutions that are for us. You're here to protect and serve, not fucking put your knee on our necks until we die in the street like fucking rats and dogs. This has to change. And my prayers, my thoughts, my love is to George Floyd's family, to every family who has lost a loved one in this senseless way. And I just pray that something changes from this. It has to change. Up next, we got all the hot stories, top stories on High Low News. So another story that we talked about early in the broadcast, one of our top stories, is Opa-locka being underwater, those residents and the Back Blues. Go check that out for all the details on that story. It's on HighLowNewsMiami.com. Also, another story we have is about the Shameless Goats podcast. It's a hilarious podcast about Nigerian American men who are talking about love, sex, relationships, and hot topics. Their most recent episode is about social justice. It's definitely about all the hot button issues that's going on right now in the news. So go check that out as well. Another story that we have is about a new art exhibit in Fort Lauderdale. It's for the celebration of Caribbean Heritage Month. And so I'm Caribbean. My family is from the Bahamas and Haiti. I found that out later in life. That's another story for another video. But I wanted to make sure I shout that out and let y'all know that that exhibit is going on. You can get more details on High Low News Miami. Also, another story we have on the blog is our Insecure recap. Go check that out. You already on YouTube. Go check out that video. I reviewed the episode. It's about Molly, that bitch Molly from Insecure. We go on and talk about the show and everything I think about it, and I break down things and themes from the show. So go check that out. Also, another story we have right now that's buzzing on High Low News is a dope, cool op-ed from candidate Melba Pearson. She's running for Miami-Dade County State Attorney. And in that story, she discusses what it will take to improve the state attorney's office so we could prevent incidents that happen like with Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and now George Floyd. So she's going into detail on what it will take to improve the state attorney's office. She's running for that office. So for me, she's the woman for the job. You guys check out her plan. You can read that op-ed on High Low News Miami as well. And I also wrote a column this week that's buzzing on the website. It's about what's going on in the news. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I just wanted to go into detail about what these stories meant to me. And for me, I go into detail about what broke me, what broke my spirit, what broke my heart, what made me cry, what made me stop in my tracks. And it wasn't the video of George Floyd. I can't watch that. I can't watch videos of dead bodies anymore, black bodies. I just can't do that. It haunts me. But what did break me was I saw some pictures, some beautiful pictures, some RIP pictures of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and now George Floyd. And they were beautifully painted. It's by this artist out of Chicago. And just seeing that those pictures contrasted in my mind with what actually happened to them, and to know that they're no longer here, it broke me down, y'all. And I go into detail in my column. You guys can check that out on High Low News Miami to see what my take is on everything that's going on. So y'all, make sure y'all go to our website and check out those hot stories on High Low News. All right, y'all, it's a wrap for the roundup this week. Thank you always for rocking with me. Thank you for rocking with me and my berets and my different hairstyles each week. It's a quarantine. I ain't getting my hair done. I got to figure it out at the house. So thank y'all for watching. Oh, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell a friend, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about our stories. Give me story ideas. You can send those to highlownews@gmail.com. Also, go check us out on highlowNewsMiami.com. Go see all of our stories that are posted there. And like I said, make sure you like and subscribe and tell a friend. This has been another episode of The Roundup, and we'll see you guys next week.